Hi, I'm Kendra Buckner, and this is my Learning, Growth, and Competency Development presentation for EDU 129 Orientation to Professional Practice. To begin, I would like to talk about my experiences prior to this course as a teaching assistant. I first did my first co-op placement last year in high school for a grade 10 history class. I learned a lot about the teaching world. I even had to look at the curriculum, make my own presentation for the very end for my co op teacher to come in and evaluate me, and discussed daily goals. I also helped support the kids' learning. I was engaged in professional practice. I got to know these students on a personal level, and I really got a great sense of what it was like to be a teacher. And even at the end, my co-op teacher was like, this is better than even some of um, the pre-service teachers I've seen, more so at like the university level. So I was very proud of myself about that. Then in second semester, I helped out in a grade 10 civics class, but unfortunately that was cut early due to the pandemic. But yeah, those are my experiences going in to this course. One thing that we focused very heavily on in this course is the reconciliation journey and Indigenous education. I expanded my current understandings of Indigenous learning. I have extensive experience in high school learning about Indigenous history, but also incorporating Indigenous culture into classes such as drama, where it wasn't necessarily like history, where you're talking about that dark history of Canada. Like, it was more so like, let's show Indigenous excellence and culture into this non Indigenous course. Um, and I think what this course really showed me is that there's a lot of stuff legally and at the government level that we have to overcome in the present in order to expand on the curriculum and have Indigenous education flourish, so we don't repeat the same steps as previously with awful things like residential schools. And some of my next steps, I'm really excited to take either decolonization education next year or Indigenous education, and enjoy some of the training and teaching that will hopefully come with the finished Quigma building at Bishop's. Another significant part of this course was gender and sexual diversity in learning contexts that was present in the two LGBTQ plus coalition workshops that we had. And to begin with, I would just like to say that I am a white cisgender heterosexual female. Therefore, I have a lot of privilege, and I am recognizing that privilege, but also I also recognize the amount of heteronormativity in my life. However, with my experiences, although I grew up in, a slightly more rural community, I've been very lucky to have such amazing friends who are transgender, non-binary, asexual, lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, etc. So when we discuss those terms further in those workshops, I was happy to know what they are and how to explain them, but now I know how that to explain it in a professional context in case anyone asks me and wants me to reaffirm my knowledge a lot better. I think the best part about those workshops were the class exercises. The one thing that is really going to stick with me as a pre-service teacher and also as a teacher is the scenario in which, what if a student comes up to you and says, I think I'm gay, I'm not sure if my family's going to accept me, um, and then the step-by-step plan that we did with that, if that happens, because it really helps us understand the importance and representation of LGBTQ plus um, members, um, like even just to say that this classroom is a safe space, have a poster on the wall, make sure no discrimination happens, avoid gender based language and stereotypes because gender roles are the worst kind of bread. So, observations and approaches to education. We did multiple observations throughout the semester, but the first one that we did and another one that really stuck out to me was Miss Wesling's two-part observation. Uh, the first part being she is teaching an English class and they're talking about the crucible and what are examples of good sources and maybe not so reliable sources, and essay writing, and uh, it was not necessarily like a bad lesson, but you can definitely tell that there was time issues with time management and the focus of the class, and uh, just it didn't really stick that well. Um, but then, for her next class, when she was teaching the same thing, she didn't just say, oh, well, my first thing didn't work out, let's just continue on. She recognized that the lesson didn't go as well as she planned, changed what she was, not the content that she was teaching, but the way she was teaching it. And we as a class saw visible improvements. And there was even a part afterwards where she did her own reflective practice, which I thought was really cool because, just to own up saying, this didn't work out, I recognize this didn't work out. Um, Even asking like her coworker for advice, it was really cool. The other observation that really stuck out to me was Miss Young's class because she was teaching individuals who have need additional support with their learning, and there was even other support teachers there as well, and they were doing an art lesson, and it was just, she was never patronizing. She was incredibly patient. It was incredibly well done, and it was really amazing to see a class in a context that maybe I won't teach in the future, or just a more neurodiverse context, especially since I am someone with ADHD, so I classify as a neurodiverse individual. And I think one thing that's always stuck out to me was, stop teaching your class like with the one kid that has ADHD and thinking about it as something to deal with, or it could be autism or Down syndrome, etc., and start teaching like the entire class like that's a neurodiverse individual. Like, how do you become the most inclusive person that you can be? And we had some really great discussions about that in class. We also discussed uh, technology in the classroom and how that can become a different approach, and the pros and cons of that, health issues, mental health issues, accessibility, especially, and also how more innovative does it get? Is it almost like that old blackboard classroom style, but now it has technology, which means it's supposedly better? Or is it actually aiding people in their learning and is accessible for everyone? And now I just want to take this time to reflect on my growth and development. This course truly helped me with professional practice. I had a very comprehensive introduction into formal professional practice. I learned new language, saw different contexts, gained different skills, especially, during my first semester in a pandemic. And again, that comes in with the technology in the classroom argument earlier. And what is education? How do we give the right to education to all? And just learning more pedagogical context. and pedagogical critical thinking and reflection. And I'm just feel like I have a really good toolkit to continue here at Bishops. I feel like we really touched on the competencies of how to act as like this professional interpreter of education, what education gets taught. I feel I'm able to communicate clearly. I've had great discussions with other people with different uh, points of view than me, and we're also demonstrating ethically and responsibly, this behavior going in as a pre-service teacher. How do we go from someone who's like studying education and then now teaching other people? So thank you for listening to my presentation.